Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 65th Songbike Guitar Q&A live stream. My name is Jonathan. I had to work out a few kinks, but I'm here. I'm glad you're here too. We got a bunch of people watching already. Welcome. I got a note here, and I want to make it very visible right from the beginning of our live stream. For you bikers who join us every Saturday, I'm going to try something different. The next live stream, see that sign right there? Next live stream will be Friday, September 27. Not Saturday. It's going to be Friday this week. Sound good? At 6 p.m. Eastern. That means 1 hour later than usual. So 1 hour later than whatever it is right now in your time zone. Okay? Next Friday is the next live stream. No live stream on Saturday. We're going to do a Friday night live stream instead. Okay. I'm here for your questions. And I see some questions in the chat already. Those of you who are just joining us maybe for the first time, please ask a question. Put a few question marks in advance, like Bruce did. Bruce, I see your question right there. I will get to it in a moment. We have a poll up and running already. The poll is regarding finger picking, so please take part in the poll. The question is, can you finger pick on the guitar? And the answers are, well, no. I always play with a pick. Yeah, but I kind of make up my own way of doing it. Yeah, but I just started. I'm doing it the proper way. I'm learning from a teacher, from a book, but I'm just started. I'm doing it the right way. And the final answer is, yeah, I'm a great finger picker. I do it all the time, and I do it the proper official way. Maybe you fall into one of those four categories, and I'm curious. All right, everybody, in between your questions, I'm very excited about what's going on here today. In between your questions, you know what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about riffs you want to steal. This might even be a regular segment. Riffs you want to steal. I have a very cool guitar riff that I want to show you because you should steal it. I want to steal it and do stuff with it. Derek Trucks. I'm sure we have some Derek Trucks fans out there. You hear him once and you become a Derek Trucks fan. Well, who does Derek Trucks listen to? I will tell you. Drone strings. Do you use drone strings in your playing? You will today. And I'll show you how we can take a Beatles classic and use some drone strings to play that classic song. The first rock guitar book ever? Is there such a thing? Well, some book had to be the first, right? I have come across, let's just call it an early one. Was it the first rock guitar instructional book ever? I don't know exactly, but it's a pretty early one. I can't wait to show it to you. Stairway to Heaven. We're going to finally get to the beginning of Stairway to Heaven. We've been learning Stairway to Heaven from back to front. Today, we're finally at the beginning of the tune, so stick around for that. Mary Jane's Last Dance. Good old Tom Petty, Last Dance with Mary Jane, Mary Jane's Last Dance. The rhythm guitar part is a very cool exercise. If we have time, I want to show you that. It's a cool exercise. We have a number of great musician guitar players that I want to turn you on to if you're not already turned on to them. A little segment I like to call some of the coolest musicians on YouTube. And of course, we have our regular segments, including our guitar play-along song of the week. I can't wait to show you that as well. Okay, but let's get to your questions. Bruce says, I'm trying to improve my rhythm playing. Rather than just strumming chords, how can I add riffs or lead lines or embellishments to make my rhythm playing sound more sophisticated? Yep, that's it. That's one of the best questions ever. And it's a really big question, right? So we will, maybe let's break it down into two categories. Rhythm guitar playing involving your favorite chords down here in the first position, also known as open position, you could call it, C, A minor, G, D. And the same concept, but further up the neck, maybe involving bar chords or, my favorite one finger major chord. Okay, so let's break it up into two different parts like that. Oh, by the way, Beginner Guitar Lessons is our moderator. So let's give a warm round of applause to Beginner Guitar Lessons, who is here tonight. His name is in blue. Okay, so Bruce, I like how you're thinking, because rhythm guitar is everything. Because rhythm guitar can include anything a lead guitar player does, in the sense that rhythm guitar can include lots of single string playing, especially for those of you who are electric guitar players. Okay, so a quick definition. Rhythm guitar is the repetitive stuff that forms the foundation of the song. And it might be that the rhythm guitar is the only instrument doing chords or chord related stuff. You might have a piano player in the band, you might not. You might have a bass player, I hope you do, but the bass player is doing things that reflect the chords, but the harmony that's holding the song together might be down to one person. That's you, the rhythm guitar player. So rhythm guitar, it doesn't get more important than rhythm guitar playing. Okay, so to incorporate, I'm going to reread your question, Bruce. I like how you asked it. How can I add riffs or lead lines or embellishments to make my rhythm playing sound more sophisticated? Okay, I'm going to illustrate this using, how about a good old C chord, C major? And in a minute, maybe we can do C major, but up the neck, okay? All right, so C major. A couple of quick things. Say you know your job is to strum a C major chord. Maybe this song is even in the key of C. You're going to spend a lot of time with a C major chord. Let's start with picking out individual strings. Now, I'm going to start with what I consider to be pretty rudimentary stuff, and then I'll get more complicated. So I got my C chord, but I'm not just scrubbing up and down like this. Nothing wrong with that. There's a time and a place for that. But to pick out individual notes, I'm alternating between my A string, my 5th A string, and my 4th D string. Okay, now you got an element of texture in there, right? Some texture going on. You're giving the listener an individual note sound and a strum. Okay, let's ramp it up a little bit. How about a hammer-on the 4th string? Okay, now you have something going on there. I'm giving this kind of a country, boppy, bluegrass kind of boom, chicka kind of feel. What I'm doing, you can apply to any rhythmic strum anytime you're doing like a C chord, or any chord for that matter. But I'm giving it a little, that boom, chicka kind of feel. That's just my choice. Okay, so now, by the way, what I was doing there was, right before I plucked the 4th string, the D string, I lifted my middle finger off. I plucked it as an open string. Oops. And then I hammered down. I only plucked it once with my pick. Oops. And then I hammered down. Okay, so now our C chord really has some more texture. Okay. What about playing notes from the C major scale, specifically the C major scale that is in this vicinity, right? I don't want to rush up and play notes in the C major scale way up the neck. I mean, actually, I kind of do, but let's stay focused right down here, right? C major scale. Any of the notes are fair game. You're already holding some of the notes of a C major scale. Does that make sense? The C major chord contains some of the notes of the C major scale. For instance, every one of your fingers is grabbing a note from the C major scale. But there are other notes that you have to work for, but they're sure going to sound pretty in the context of a C major chord. Okay, so I'm dancing around a little bit here. The C major scale, the way I'm conceiving of it, is based on that note. 3rd fret in the 5th string, the note C, the note my ring finger's on. There's your C, first note of a C scale. On the next skinny string, the D string, the 4th string, you can include the open 4th string, 2nd fret. That's where your middle finger was anyways. 4th string, 3rd fret. So far we have do, re, mi, fa. The open 3rd string, that's your G string. Same string, 2nd fret, that's the note A. 2nd string open, that's note B. 2nd string, 1st fret, that's the note C. That's where your index finger was anyways, okay? This is the type of thing I will put in the description when I timestamp this video. But why stop there? We have the 2nd string, 3rd fret, the note D. 1st string open, 1st string, 1st fret, it's the F. first string, 3rd fret, that's note G. So we have, and again, you don't have to memorize all that. I'll put that in the description, right? All of those notes are fair game while I'm strumming a C chord. In our hypothetical situation, let's pretend I'm on the C chord for 8 long counts, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, right? You can dance around. Oh, by the way, when do you put in stuff like that? When the singer stops singing, right? You don't want to do that while the singer's singing. But the singer is singing and then they stop. Then they keep on singing and then they stop. By that time, you're probably going on to another chord, right? So I would describe that as a fill. I'm filling in a space with notes from the relevant scale, especially, you know, when there a space exists, right? Someone's got to fill it. The worst thing would be to have the singer sing and then they stop and you just keep strumming that chord, just waiting for the singer to keep singing. You can't have that, right? You can't have that. You got to put something in there, you know? It doesn't even have to be particularly sophisticated. Just a little singer is singing and then they stop and you go. And then they keep singing and then they stop. Right? Something. Okay. So you guys good with this? I'm using the C major chord as an example. The C major scale is a relevant scale, especially if you like that pretty folky country kind of sound, right? You can't go wrong with the major scale. So I'll leave it at that as one example. If I were to illustrate what I just did with other chords, I would need to know the major scale that relates to that chord. G major chord, G major scale. A minor chord, A minor scale, and so on, right? You might think, whoa, that's a lot of scales. Yep, it is, but you can do this as needed. When does the singer stop singing? Maybe it's a G chord. Okay, so you don't need to know every scale in the world. You need to know notes from a G scale to fill in that space. You know, that's why it's so great to have a repertoire of songs that you're working on, some specific ones that you can focus on, so it doesn't feel overwhelming, right? And you guys know the most common chords, the most common keys that you're playing, the names of the guitar strings, those are the most common keys, the key of E, the key of A, the key of D, and so on. I know there's no C string, that's the exception. C is a very common key, just so happens we don't have a C string. Okay, now up the neck a little bit. I'm still thinking key of C. The C chord I'm going to refer to, though, is okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's do the C major bar chord. And again, I'm just choosing C. I could illustrate this with anything. C major bar chord. I have my bar at the 8th fret. My remaining fingers are doing the E major formation. A lot of you know this already. What I'm about to show you, it's okay if you're not good at bar chords. The chord itself is not the point of what I'm about to teach you, you know? If you're not great at bar chords, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, because what we're talking about now is if C is the proper chord, however you play a C chord, what you can do in this vicinity on the guitar. So I'm going to double check to make sure you're okay with a C bar chord. I'm going to show you an alternative, and then we'll get into some of the rhythm guitar things you can do. Okay. Oh, actually, okay, yeah. Bar at 8 with my index finger. My middle finger, 3rd skinny string 9. My pinky, 4th skinny string 10. My ring finger, 5th skinny string 10. And if you look carefully at your middle ring and pinky, they resemble the shape of an E major chord. Although typically we do E major with those 3 fingers, right? But the shape of the chord is the same. Okay, if you're not 100% clear on bar chords, that's another topic which I'm happy to get to. Okay, now, just so you know, there is so much waiting for you as a rhythm guitar player. if you associate the number 8 with C. As long as you get your hand in the vicinity of the 8th fret, your index finger in the vicinity of the 8th fret, even if you're not even going to do a bar chord, there's a lot of good C stuff waiting for you in 8th position. The name of the position, by the way, indicates where your index finger is hovering. If my index finger is hovering around 5, then I'm in the 5th position. Okay. Okay. One thing that's waiting for you right away, as long as your hand's in this vicinity, is a cute little pentatonic box nicknamed the BB King box. It begins with my middle finger playing that note right where it already is. 9 on the 3rd string. That's where it was anyways, right? Middle finger's on 9 on the 3rd string. The BB King box, if I'm thinking C major, goes 9, 8, 10, 8, 10. Meaning 9 on the 3rd string, 8, 10 on the 2nd, 8, 10 on the 1st. Cute little box, 9, 8, 10, 8, 10. Please, please, please use your middle finger on the 9 on the 3rd string. Please use your index finger on 8 on the 2nd. Do not accept any other finger. That's the finger. Ring finger, 10 on the 2nd. And the same combination on the 1st string. Index, 8 on the 1st string. Ring 8 on the ring 10 on the 1st string. So again, hypothetical situation. The song is on a C chord for 8 slow beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. If I were on another chord, a G chord, I'm just going to glide down. So it's a G bar chord. A B flat. The beautiful thing about bar chords, it's equally easy anywhere you go, right? It's just the same concept, sliding up and down next. Okay. So Bruce, you with me on this? Now, a minute ago, I told you I was going to show you an alternative, either because maybe you're not quite there with bar chords yet, which is totally understandable, or maybe you don't want that big bar chord sound. I highly recommend getting hip to the following. Playing a fragment of a bar chord. For example, simply the 2 bass strings, 8 on the 6th string with my index, 10 on the 5th string with my ring finger. Now, I'm trying to angle my hand in a way that you can see I'm not barring anymore with my index finger. See that? I'm gently curving over the strings, and I'm putting all my pressure on the 6th string, 8th fret. Okay? Get why I call this a fragment of a bar chord? Why hold down the whole thing if I'm only going to strum the 2 bass strings? But that cute little box, of course, it still goes with this, right? All right, so what I'm giving you here is a very specific example. This very specific type of bar chord, this BB King box, by the way, pentatonic, that's a 5-tone scale. The proper name for that is the C major pentatonic scale in 8th position, meaning my index finger is playing the 8ths. Okay. The bigger principle is that we are connecting whatever chord you're playing, wherever you're playing it, with a relevant scale. Playing a major chord, you're going to want to know a major scale or a major pentatonic scale in that vicinity, right? Even though it's fun to play low and high and low and high, it's not super practical, and it's not necessary unless you are, you're covering some specific song that does that, or you just want to show off, there's so much waiting for you. I mean, if you know your options, there's so much waiting for you. Like I said, someone says C major, your hand gets in this 8th position. And there's so much. We'll do this sometime. I made a video a million years ago that I think it was like the name of the video was something like unlock your guitar starting on the 6th string or something like that. Because as long as you think, okay, 6th string, 8th fret is the note C, and you get up there in that position, there's so much stuff waiting for you right there. Chord stuff, lead guitar stuff, soloing stuff, rhythm guitar. I mean, there's so much waiting for you. And then when the song changes to some other chord, you would move your hand to that new position and reflect and do something that reflects that chord. So that's the bigger principle. The more scales you know, the better. The more chords you know, the better. And if I had to pick one scale, that's, the most important scale for most of us, it's the pentatonic scale. Different ways of playing pentatonic scales up and down the neck of your guitar. And if I say so myself, I like anybody who can connect a specific chord with a specific pentatonic scale, right? I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to connect this stuff because then your brain, I think it's just easier to remember 2 things that mesh together than 2 things that don't, right? Kind of common sense. So in my mind, that's how you do it, that's how it works. Okay, so Bruce, I hope that gets you going. You asked, it's a great question, and I chose to answer it with those 2 specific contexts. But I mean, ask the same question again next week, and let's do it. I bet I can come up with. I know I can come up with some more perspectives. A totally different way of doing a certain chord. Quick example, and then I'll move on. Playing A major with 1 finger, and then moving up to the 5th fret. And what you have there is a C major chord, as long as you only pluck the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th strings. Okay, it's a 1-finger C major chord on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th skinny strings. Now, if that's our premise, if that's how we're playing a C chord, well, there's all sorts of cool little rhythm guitar stuff in there that you could add on. In fact, just start experimenting right now with notes since my finger's at the 5th fret, I have 6th fret notes waiting for me with my middle finger, 7th fret notes waiting for me with my ring, and 8th fret notes waiting for me with my pinky, right? The beautiful thing about doing a 1-finger chord is how the other fingers are. They're there to embellish, like you said, Bruce, embellishments. So, I mean, that 1-finger major chord, there's so many possibilities. Now, if you just do trial and error, like I said, with your middle ring and pinky, you're going to make some sounds you don't like. I guarantee it. That's one thing I will promise you. You're going to sound bad sometimes, I promise. But a few things are going to ring a bell. So many possibilities. And nothing wrong with trial and error, right? Nothing wrong with trial and error. Michael, hey, Michael. Michael asked a great question. Michael says, have you ever had a student feel that they needed a new guitar in order to play better? And when they got the new guitar, they did in fact play better. Yeah, because they get inspired. They get pumped up. Is it sort of created in their head? Yep. Is that a good thing? Yep. So much of our progress, mine and yours, on our instrument is psychological. You're practicing more than usual, so you think you really should be sounding better, and you kind of are sounding better. And is it because you're practicing more? Of course. But is it also because you're listening to yourself better and you're feeling better about the whole thing? Yeah. So, Michael, I can tell you I don't feel like the opposite has happened, where a student got a new guitar and their practice time went down, their interest went down. Yeah. So if my answer was inspiring to you, and that's all you needed to that was the final little push to make you want to go out and buy a new guitar, don't let me stop you. And I'm gonna I put my Sweetwater affiliate link in the chat. Now I've had a bunch of students in the past 32 years on every guitar you can imagine. And I've seen students sound really great on a variety of instruments, of, of different price points. But I definitely have had students like upgrade, and but it's, and a little bit, you might say, well, that's just because they're excited and they were going to get better anyways, because they're passionate and they're excited about it, and they got the new instrument, so they're playing it more because they want to try it out. That's all true. That's all true. But objectively, as instruments get to be better quality, and I'm not saying more expensive, although you can't rule that out, but a better quality instrument is more responsive to your touch. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. That's why you pay more, because you get more out of the instrument. The strings are easier to press down. The wood resonates more. It stays in tune better. All those things, right? As the more I play the guitar, the more sensitive I get. And I want an instrument that can reflect my new sensitivity. That if I do something a little bit different, the instrument sounds a little bit different, So the fact that an instrument is more responsive and more sensitive to your touch, that's a beautiful thing. And in general, you pay more for that. Or you have an instrument that has been carefully looked at by a guitar tech, a luthier, and they made adjustments to make the guitar play better. And so you invested some money in the instrument, and now the instrument is more sensitive to your touch. And so I'm a pretty big believer in that. Yeah. Then again, if buying a new guitar is not in your budget right now, don't even worry about it. I mean, they're so, I think my feeling is it's conventional wisdom at this point that there are so many great quality guitars at every price point. The number one variable, it would seem to me, is your instrument set up to be in the best possible playing condition, that it can be. That's huge. 100%. That's huge. But the exact price of your guitar and the exact country where it was made and all that kind of stuff, to me, it seems like that's becoming less and less important. And there may even be developments where your local guitar tech becomes not obsolete by any means, but a little bit less important. I'll give you an example. These Firefly guitars, you guys heard about Firefly guitars made in China? Stainless steel frets. I paid extra on my new guitar for stainless steel frets, and here's Firefly making it, for $200. The whole guitar is $200, and they include stainless steel frets, right? Well, stainless steel frets need much less attention from a guitar tech. In general, they don't need to be filed and polished and all that stuff periodically. So it's possible, as guitar quality ramps up at every price point, guitar techs won't be quite as needed quite as often for the most common things the way they are now. And so my point is, whatever guitar you have, enjoy it, play the heck out of it, have it checked out periodically to make sure everything is groovy, and life will be good. Okay. Yeah, David is asking about the drone strings. Okay, let's do the drone strings. David says, can you show us or talk about drone strings? I can and will. Okay. So let's get into it. Drone strings. That means repeatedly playing an open string at the same time that you're playing a fretted string. Two different strings. One of them keeps droning along, and the other is being fretted. Okay, I got my paperwork here. And I can tell you that I had a positive experience just last evening, less than 12 hours ago. I had a very positive experience with drone strings. And that just made me want to double down and teach you guys this right now. Okay, so let me see if I have this set up ready to go. I'll show you in a minute. what I have written down. But first I'll play it and whet your appetite a little bit. Okay, name this tune, friends. You know what that song is, right? Lennon and McCartney. When my son was a young guy, he's like, Dad, I have a favorite Beatles song. Oh, awesome. And he named that song. I'm like, oh, that's a heavy song, man. For a young kid, that's a pretty heavy song. The name of that song is, someone put it in the chat. I'm scrolling. So what we have going on here is, and I'll show you the tab in a second. I have the open skinny E string. The song is in the key of E minor. So you can't go wrong with that skinny E string droning along while the melody is happening, in this case on this string right next to it, the B string. Here's what it would sound like if I did not include that open E droning skinny string. Feels like something's missing. Here it comes with that droning E string. Much better. Name of the song? Okay. Joseph, you got it. Chris, you got it. Good old Eleanor Rigby. Okay, so check this out. This is what I just played. I bet you guys can see that okay. All those zeros, that's the open skinny E string ringing. And it continues on until right here, the melody drops down from the second string, the B string, to the G string. So I dropped the drone note down. The drone note was the first E string, and the drone note drops down to the second B string. Okay, so which fingers you use is really up to you. I think I was just playing almost all of that with my middle finger. For the record, this is not what's happening on the actual Beatles recording. It's in the right key. You could do this along with the Beatles, and I hope you do. And I'll show you the rest of the melody in a minute. So I see one little thing. Right there is a 0 with a 10 under it. I'm not going to mess with it, but often when I do a double-digit number like 10, I put a circle around it. You'll see that in a second. I did not put a circle around, but that is indeed the number 10 right there, okay? Just because I don't want someone to see a 1 and a 0 and assume it's anything other than a 10. Okay, so in terms of plucking this, some of you are going to be tempted to do it with like a thumb and a pointer finger. It's not the craziest idea. You could do that, or the any two fingers. I challenge you to do it with a pick. One of the challenges, whether you do it with a pick or not, the melody, the 5, 7, 8, 10, that melody right there has to be loud and proud. The drone note should be a little bit softer. Well, how are you supposed to make one note loud and one note soft when you're plucking them both with the same pick, or even just doing your thumb and your pointer finger? What, your thumb is supposed to magically be loud and your pointer finger is supposed to be soft? Yes, if you're doing it with bare fingers. Don't worry, your thumb has no problems being loud. So actually, thumb and pointer is probably a pretty safe way to do it. But again, I'm challenging you to do it with a pick. Okay, so when you're strumming two strings at the same time, like that's what's indicated here. You guys get that, right? Two strings at the same time, that's where they're stacked up on top of each other. If you're doing two strings at the same time, but you want one to be louder than the other, in this case, specifically the B string, ready for the big reveal, you tilt the pick up towards your chin more than you might normally do it. If you tilt the pick up towards your chin more, oh, actually, let me think. Well, no, actually, I take that back. you want more of your energy to be hitting the second string, which is what it's going to come in contact with first, right? So in this particular case, I do not worry about you guys. I think you will bring out the volume of the B string, and I think the skinny E drone string will pretty likely be a little bit quieter. What I was thinking about was if we want to achieve the opposite, if we want the skinny string to be the louder one. Moving on. Okay, so there's your intro, right? Look at all the lonely people. Now, here comes, because I couldn't just leave it at the intro when we can actually continue this whole concept with the melody of the tune, you know? Okay. Now I realize this is a little bit hard to see. There's a lot going on here. I get it. But I couldn't bear to only give you guys like part of the information. Okay. Hey, Bruce, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You know why? Because my Sharpies are dying and I need to invest in some new Sharpies. Hopefully it won't come through on your end. Hopefully this is all pretty legible. But as showtime was approaching tonight, I was writing down stuff like this, and every Sharpie I grabbed was going from black to grayish as I would write. Oh well. Okay, so we're still droning here, but can you see how now the drone string is the second string, the B string? It works harmonically. It works. What do we got here? 5s and 7s. Okay, so now we run the risk of that second B string being a little bit too loud, right? That's what I was just hearing as I was playing. I thought, ooh, I don't want the B string to be that loud. Now you tilt the pickup towards your chin a little bit more than you normally would. So it kind of glances off the B string. And that just has a nice, that brings about a volume change. All of a sudden your skinny E string is a little bit louder. So you know what I mean when I say tilt it up towards your chin, as if you're pulling the pickup towards your chin, just a little bit. To the best of your ability, obviously you don't want any of your skin to slightly touch the second skinny string, right? Okay, so what I just played took me up to that repeat sign. If you want to play this like as a performance and actually sound like you're performing Eleanor Rigby, at that moment, you go back to the beginning, you do it again. And finally, this part I'm about to show you goes on to page 2. That's all the lonely people, right? By the way, I'm going to timestamp all this tomorrow morning. So I don't expect you guys to memorize this or to quickly write it all down. Definitely plan on coming back to this, you know, whenever the time is right. We're at, let's see, officially, we're at, what about 40 something minutes into the live stream here. So, you know, it shouldn't be too hard for you to find this. Okay, so ready for page 2? Here's page 2. See it right down there, it says page 2. You know, I try to keep us all organized. This is where Paul sings up high. See that 12? By the way, this is what I was talking about. Most of the time when I'm dealing with double-digit numbers, I put a circle around 12. Watch out, we got a 15 coming up there. Quick reminder, almost every guitar on the planet has 2 dots at 12. I know we got 44 of you watching right now. I know there's one of you out there where for whatever reason, the manufacturer did not put anything special at 12. I've seen it rarely. It's like seeing a rare animal but anyways, 12, 2 dots. Do not spend time hunting. Whatever you do, don't start counting up and trying to find where 12 is. For heaven's sake, use those double dots, okay? And the next dot is 15, 12, 15, 12, 15, almost all of your guitars. I know there's gonna be one exception, okay? So this is the part 0 up to 12. Where do they all? There we go. Imagine Paul McCartney. You think you have a big jump. Paul McCartney's got to sing that. He's got to sing from 0 up to 15. That's more than an octave, right? 0 to 12 is an octave. So, hey, if he can sing it, we can, you know, put our backs into it and learn how to play it. Okay. So now you know the bulk of Eleanor Rigby in the right key, played as an instrumental with the concept of the drone helping you out. Okay. I mentioned that less than 12 hours ago, I was jamming with my friend Clay. I'm going to have Clay on the show sometime. We'll do our first special guest, and he and I will. I don't even know what we're going to do, but it'll be fun and it'll be educational. And I'll show you what we were doing last night. Long story short, we were writing a song, and he had the chords. He had everything worked out, which is great. Except I need to find something to complement what he's doing. And I forget what his direction was, but the song's in the key of C, right? And I was thinking, okay, my brain is thinking C. What are my options? And of course, there's unlimited options, right? It's only limited by what you know how to do in the key of C. So I was putting in I was grabbing a C chord. I was putting in little things. I was putting in little things based on a C major scale. And he was down here, so I was doing little C major things up the neck. And, nothing was working. That's okay. I mean, it wasn't okay. I was getting frustrated, but so I reached into my toolbox. I thought, okay, what else do I know how to do in the key of C? And I thought, ooh, droning. Now, my first instinct was I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that first approach from Eleanor Rigby. Check this out. I wasn't thinking of Eleanor Rigby, but here's why I'm showing this to you guys. I knew we were in the key of C. Therefore, I knew the open E string would be a perfectly fine thing to drone on. How did I just know that? Well, think about it. When you play a C chord, it contains that open E string. So there's one bit of proof. Also, the note is E. E is not only in the key of C, but by definition, on any instrument, piano, any instrument, the note E is a chord tone. It's one of the notes of a C major scale. I knew that from my education, not just because I know that a C chord includes the open E string. So I knew that the E note would be totally fine. So I was droning around on the second string. And expand, trying to find some that worked for the song. And nothing was working. There's one reason why it wasn't working so well. At least I didn't find anything that I liked. And he wasn't giving me any sort of thumbs up. The note E in this context is the one note that makes the C chord sound major. If you change that E to any other note, it's not major anymore. Well, the song we were doing had a rocky kind of edge, and that E note was making it sound too pretty, too major. Imagine the equivalent of, instead of doing a C chord down here, imagine a C power chord. By definition, a power chord doesn't have the one note that would make it major or minor or whatever, So by droning with the open E string, what I was doing wasn't wrong. It just sounded too pretty. I thought, no, wait a minute. What if I drone on the third G string? G is a note from the C scale. It's a note from the C chord more specifically, and I can prove it because when we all grab a C major chord, the open third G string is in there, right? Okay, now that note is not the note that makes it sound major, right? It's known as the fifth, it's another note. Okay, so then I started droning around. Okay, I'm playing notes from a C major scale with my middle finger up and down the fourth string while I'm droning on that G third string. And all of a sudden he looked at me, he's like, "Ooh, I like that. That works." You know, and I agreed. Okay, so what's my point? A drone is a good tool to have in your toolbox. A little music theory helps, right? The music theory that helps you decide which string should be the open drone string. And while there's nothing wrong with trial and error and hunting around, it's really nice to know what the relevant scale is and how to find that scale on the string that's not the drone string. So I happen to know that on the fourth D string, the note at the 10th fret is the note C. Good, I want to know that because, I mean, he's banging out a C type of a chord, essentially a C power chord is what he was doing. So I know that C is going to sound good, and then I add my drone third G string. And now, just by trial and error, you or I could jump around the fourth string, the D string, and find out what sounds good at that moment. But if you know a C scale, you know 10 is the note C, that's a good note. 9 is the note B, that's a good note. 7 is A, 5 is G, 4 is F. Sorry, 3 is F. 2 is E, nothing wrong with that. But remember, I was trying to avoid that E note because it sounded too pretty and major. But you can dip into it. I'm not droning on it the way I was initially. So nothing wrong maybe with dipping into that. Okay, so there you go. That was on my checklist tonight to talk to you guys about drone stuff. And you know me, I always like to take a concept and work it into some familiar song. So check. All right, thanks everybody. So Rock Lobster says, yeah, so a drone is an open string lightly. Yeah, couldn't say it better myself. Yep. How lightly is up to you. Maybe you don't want it to be too light. Beginning guitar lessons, yeah, Eleanor Rigby is in the key of E minor. Every once in a while, a C chord comes in, but then it comes back to E minor. Interestingly, some of you Beatles fans might remember, Eleanor Rigby was the first track that didn't involve any of the Beatles playing instruments. It's all the orchestral stuff, the cellos, the celli, and Paul McCartney. I'm not sure if Paul even played any instruments on the track. So when I say, oh, it's all E minor and C, that's not wrong, but that is how a guitar player would think of it, you know, or maybe a composer like what I call the bird's eye view. When you look down on a song, you know, I would have loved to be a fly in the wall when Paul communicated to the orchestral members what he wanted them to do. I have no doubt. I mean, obviously the results speak for themselves, but I would have loved to have heard that. And I can't help but wonder if George Martin, the producer George Martin, would have been involved because he would have had the knowledge, maybe, well, I'm sure he has the knowledge. And so maybe he could translate from Paul to the orchestra, or maybe Paul just sat down at a piano and said, hey, I want, you know, somebody to play this note, somebody to play that note, build a chord. I have no idea. Would have loved to be a fly on the wall. Yeah. So you guys I'm so glad you're referring to Paint It Black. Paint It Black definitely has the same concept. But I don't know if I'm sure this is not how Keith Richards did it, but I'm faking it because that's what you do, friends. You fake it. Okay, so I used to know how to play it. I know how to learn. I can go back and watch my video on how to play it. But just so you know, the way I was faking it, the way you can too, I had my open skinny E string, and on the B string, I was going 3, 5, 6, 8, 6, 5, 3, 3, 2, 3, 5, 3, 2. That certainly sounds like the tune in general. Is it the right key? I don't know. D minor might be the right key. Don't know. But yeah, so Paint It Black is another option. Another example of a drone kind of sound. But don't take my word for it. Feel free to do a deep dive and see exactly what's happening. It could be whether or not this thing I'm about to show you is exactly what Keith Richards is doing or not. Let's throw this out there, and then we'll move on from drones. Imagine, instead of doing both strings at the same time, imagine alternating between a downstroke on the second string and an upstroke on the open first string. I'll do it slowly. I'm going to play what I just played, but I'm going to do it slowly with this alternating kind of approach, and then I'll pick up the speed a bit. It's a little bit of a different effect, right? Because it's not two strings at the exact same time. A bit faster. Cool, right? Cool. You can do that, right? Make up your own song, you know. It sounds so cool. Okay, drones. We have done drones. Drones have been done. Thanks, everybody. Hey, it's just about time. I'm gonna check the chat for any questions, but it's just about time to do our guitar play along song of the week. After a quick word from our unofficial sponsor, today's apple cider from Rogers Orchards. And on the back it says, pressed and bottled, New England Apple Products, Leominster, Mass. I'll give you 3 gold stars and 1,000 points if you can spell Leominster. And if you're from Leominster, Mass, no cheating. Leominster. I'll tell you right now, it doesn't. It's a town that Massachusetts people are very proud of because, you know, it's spelled differently than it sounds. And if you say, oh, if someone mispronounces it, then you think, well, you're not from Massachusetts. You get all. Pretty good, man. Pretty darn good. You got it, Charlie and Chris. Leo Minister. Leo Minister is what it looks like, but Leominster. Leominster. Good stuff. Holy cow, that's good. Okay, so I am scrolling just in case. Scott Rhodes says he's going to do the drone on the 12-string guitar. How cool would that be? That's going to sound great. Very, very, very cool. Okay, I'm just scrolling. Don't forget, you guys, please put a oh, Pooba John, I see your question. Please put a bunch of question marks in advance. Beginner guitar lesson says we need to start a musical word of the week. This week the word is texture. Texture, I like that. Chris, I see your question. I'm scrolling up. Oh, G Woodward, I see your question. Okay, so I think Mr. Woodward or Mr. G or G Woodward, I'm going to go with your question. Why do I enjoy the name Songbike? I love songs and I love bikes. And as a young kid, I would ride my bike and sing a song. Spent a lot of time with music in my head out there delivering newspapers. I delivered newspapers for 10 years. What kind of kid has a job for 10 years before they're like even old enough to work? Like child labor. I liked it. I was out on my bike, those songs in my head, delivering those newspapers. I always had record money. I never had a problem come up with $6 or $8 to buy another LP record. And I still have a lot of those records. No regrets. So yeah, I love songs, love bikes, and I wanted to have a name that would make people say, ooh, where'd you come up with that name? And therefore, you guys are all song bikers. You are song bikers. There's 44 of you. You guys are song bikers. Okay, Chris says, my pinky finger does not like the other way of doing G, right? Jonathan's G, for lack of a better term. I get it. I get it. No one likes this at first. So what we're talking about here is, for lack of a better name, the alternative way of fingering G with no index finger, pinky, skinny string, 3rd fret, ring finger stretching way across, 6th string, 3rd fret, middle finger, 5th string, 2nd fret, and the index doing nothing. Very useful way of playing G once you get used to it. And quick explanation why it's so useful. So many chords that pair well with G require the index finger to be ready to go right here at the 1st fret. G to C, G to A minor, G to F, any kind of F you want to do, bar chord F, whatever, G to D7, G to G7, its little cousin right there. So this way, this alternate way of doing G facilitates all those chord changes, which become really easy chord changes. Not for every song, but for so many songs, it's worth it. So Chris is saying, okay, Chris, you probably maybe don't even need to be convinced. You're just saying it's hard, and it is hard, yeah. So my advice, number one, it takes a little while. So if you just hypothetically, someone pointed out to you yesterday and today it's not going well, that's about par for the course. That's what I would expect. You may want to experiment with reversing the order of your finger placement. If you've been putting your pinky down first and then stretching across, nothing wrong with that, but maybe put your ring finger down and then your middle and then stretch your pinky over. If anything, it's an amusing diversion, I think what most people struggle with, because I watch people do this, work at it and struggle with it a little bit, is separating your ring and pinky on the two extreme strings. That's not easy to do. I get that. Here's a little silver lining. If you're doing that just fine, but your ring finger is leaning over and dampening out the 5th string, it's not the worst thing. You ever get a B+? B+ is not the worst thing, right? In fact, some people even do that intentionally. They lean over and dampen out that 5th string intentionally. So for what it's worth, Chris, if that is one of the problems you're coming across, don't beat yourself up for that. You could just about live without that low B note. Why? Because I said so. Also, because you have the open B string. So harmonically, you are giving the world a B, just not necessarily that B. Chris, if you had a song that used a lot of G and C back and forth, I think Sunshine on My Shoulders, why do I remember this? I think John Denver's song Sunshine on My Shoulders is a lot of G and C back and forth repetitively. That's motivational. It doesn't mean this chord's going to be easy or get instantly easy, but at least it's motivational, when in doubt, write your own song that goes, and it can be a slow song, right? It's your song. You could write a song that goes to C, nice and slow, it goes back to G, then it goes to C, and it's your song. So you start thinking about some better words, and before long you don't realize you've been practicing C to G, because it's your song and it sounds pretty good. And you think, why doesn't Jonathan play a 3rd chord, but not D, instead D7? Because that proves the point of how chords that go with G often need the index finger. So you're playing, D7 to prove the point, and then back to G. I mean, it's one way to disguise the fact that you're still practicing that same G chord, but your mind is suddenly thinking about, like, I can write better lyrics than that guy on YouTube. I can write some real poetry, yeah, do it. Here's some good news, Chris. I've never found a student who failed at getting comfortable with that G eventually. I've heard swearing and cuss words. I've heard students call it Jonathan's G, but they don't say it in a good way. I get it. I get it. Here's the origin story behind this. During college, I started working in a little guitar shop, and I was just the guy behind the cash register. And the store was full of guitar teachers who would teach down the basement. And later I became one of the guitar teachers down the basement of the guitar store. But one of the first things the guitar teacher said to me when he saw me strumming a little guitar in the store, when I wasn't waiting on a customer or something, he saw me playing G this way. Let's call this the conventional way. And he said, yeah, you really want to learn G this other way too. And he was a guitar teacher, and he was like old, 27, 28. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I better do it, man. I better learn G. That he made it sound pretty important. I better do it. And the rest is history. So now I'm that guy, a little older than 28, but now I'm that guy. Yeah. So Chris, hang in there. It's worth it. All I can tell you is it's worth it for sure. Poopa John asking a great question. Having a hard time changing chords on time while playing along. Yeah. Any tips? Sure. Absolutely. One of the top 3 things any guitar teacher should help you with is how do you change chords, in real time. Music is unforgiving that way, right? If a song isn't flowing and happening and everything's happening in real time, it's not music yet, right? No matter how good other things are going, you got to make those chord changes. Okay, so Poopa John, here's some things to keep in mind. Slow songs, the slowest, take all your favorite songs, but do this with the slowest ones first, just to give yourself a break. Of course, you want them to be easy chords. We want to choose our battles. So you want, songs that are changing from E minor to A major. Now, you probably have some very specific chord changes in mind, but the bottom line is, choose songs that are slow and easy, and get good at those first. And that'll give you both the skills and the confidence for doing for the harder songs. Okay. So slow songs with relatively easy chords. Third tip, eyes glued to your fretting hand. Do not look at your right hand. It's a tough habit to break. It's your dominant hand and it's making music. And so you want to look at where the music is coming from. I get that, but don't do it. In general, no matter what you're pursuing on the guitar, you don't want to look at your strumming hand, your picking hand more than you absolutely have to, which is not much, unless you're doing some pretty intricate thing over here. But in general, I'm speaking super generally, keep your eyes on your fretting hand as much as humanly possible, and just try not to look at your right hand, your strumming hand. So Poopa John, eyes on your left hand, it makes a difference. It can be a profound difference. It can be a tiny difference, but it definitely makes a difference. Your eyes need to be there, to memorize the song. This gets back a little bit to choosing songs that are slow and easy. You can't have your eyes on the paper. You want to have your eyes on your left hand. So slow, easy, repetitive songs. And again, write your own tune. Say you're working on a song that has a hard chord change. Anything going to B minor. What a pain, right? Nothing pairs well with B minor, right? So let's say the song is G going to B minor. By the way, if that is the specific context, you definitely could do G the conventional way, index, middle, and ring, because doing it Jonathan's way does not instantly make getting to a B minor easier. Okay, so say you're doing a song G to B minor and it's making you crazy. Okay, table that song, focus on just G and B minor, but now write yourself a song that goes G over to B minor, back to G, then B minor. It's not the craziest idea. It doesn't have to be a hit song. Nobody has to hear it. Then again, how do you think people write songs, man? They just take a couple of chords that they learned in some other context and they extract those chords and they write their own song with those chords, right? So in general, isolating the hard part and repeating it 1,000 times is super important. Pooba John, I'm guessing that some chord changes you're better at than other chord changes. So you isolate the hard ones and you do them 1,000 times, but to entertain yourself while you're doing them 1,000 times, make up your own song that uses them. You might even make up a song that's better than the song that you're working on. You might, I don't know. It's possible. Hey, how are we doing in our poll results? Clank, clunk. Okay, poll results. The question of the night, if you haven't voted yet, the question of the night is, there we go. Can you finger pick the guitar? Number one answer, no, I just use a pick all the time. That's what 42% of you have said so far. By the way, we have 52 votes in. 17% say, yeah, I kind of made up my own way of picking. By the way, I had to leave the G off of the word picking because YouTube limits how long the question can be. So 17% say, well, I finger pick, but I kind of do it my own way. 25% say, I do finger pick, but I just started, but I'm doing it the right way. And I'll tell you what I mean by the right way in a second. And then 15% say, yes, I do it the right way, kind of implying that you have a little bit of experience. If I had to say two things to illustrate the right way of finger picking, they are, and these are both general, but they're important. Your thumb is in charge of the three bass strings, E, A, and D. No matter what the song is, no matter what you're doing, your thumb's in charge of those three bass strings, and your remaining fingers, index, middle, and ring, each get their own personal string. The index finger is in charge of the third string, G, middle finger in charge of the second string, B, ring finger in charge of the first string, E. Okay, see how now every string has something assigned to it? Ring, middle, index, thumb, thumb, thumb. Okay, that is proper finger picking. Are there exceptions to that orientation? Totally, totally. But now you have training. Now you're trained. Okay. Now, if you make an exception to that, you'll be aware, okay, it's an exception. There might be a great reason to do an exception, but that's super important to start finger picking with that orientation in mind. And then if you make exceptions, then that's what they are. They're exceptions. Second thing about finger picking, see how my wrist is bending a little bit like that? If I didn't do that, now my wrist is what I would call a neutral position. We do not want that. Imagine that you have a jug of water and you're going to pour that jug of water right onto your lap. This is how I was taught. That's, in general, that's the position you want your hand to be in. Like you just poured a jug of water in your lap. Don't force your wrist, to sort of be like that in a painful way, but you want your hand to hang down like that. Your thumb should be parallel to the strings. See that? My thumb is parallel to the strings. Your fingers should be plucking up sort of towards your shoulder. I'm right-handed. I'm plucking my right hand. My fingers are coming up towards my right shoulder. Okay? Here's what we want to avoid. And if you avoid what I'm about to do, then you're on your way to being a good finger picker. We want to avoid having your fingers all parallel to the strings. Okay? In which case, when you pluck a string, you're kind of vaguely plucking it. I don't even know how you do that. I see people do it all the time. People who haven't taken any lessons. You don't want that. You don't want your fingers parallel to the strings, except your thumb. Okay? Okay, now you know. Now you're trained. There you go. There you go. Okay. Rock Lobster. That cracked me up. I love it. Rock Lobster made a super chat donation, and Chaz did too. Chaz, thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate that. Going to the Sharpie Fund. Rock Lobster referred to his super chat donation as song bucks. Get it? We're Songbike, and the donation was song bucks. I love it. All right, Rock Lobster. Rock Lobster, weren't you the one who invented the term DQ for dumb questions? You're the man. I think it was you, Rock Lobster. Love it. Love it. Okay, song bucks. Song bucks. Chris is asking, I'm sorry, Deborah, DAC Poe is asking a good question. Deborah says, are you changing the date for live streams to Saturdays or just that one? Yeah, just this one. Next live stream is this coming Friday night, 1 hour later than usual. Okay. Right now here in Connecticut, the time is 6:20. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the time difference between all of us. Okay, next Friday night is the next live stream. No live stream on Saturday. It's my wife's birthday. Are you there, music fan? It's music fan's birthday. We're gonna party. So no live stream Saturday, but we'll do it on Friday. Yeah. So just that one time. Although I'm hoping, knock on wood, I'm hoping that a lot of you can shift over to Friday for one week. And I'm also hoping that maybe for some of you, Friday is actually a better day. We got 46 people watching right now, but a few hundred people are going to be watching this video during the week. Hey, everybody, in the future. So I'm hoping that some of the people who can't make it on a Saturday night, like, oh, I can take part live now that's on a Friday night for once. So it's gonna be a fun show. Shake things up a little bit. Same great taste, fewer calories, no. But yeah, why not, man? Why not? Randy says, happy birthday to Music Fan. You got it. Music Fan is also a moderator. She gets a wrench. She's blue with a wrench. Scott, I see your question. How about I take one more question and then we will do our play along song of the week, which I'm excited about. Play along song of the week. You do not need a capo. You do not need an F chord or any bar chords of any kind. So it's going to be great. Yeah. Scott Rhodes says, dumb question, DQ. Thinking of getting new pickups for my cheapest guitar. The pickups cost more than the guitar. Is that dumb? Like putting expensive tires on a cheapo car? It is not dumb. So let's see. I understand the math. And the math, any reasonable person would say, wow, is that really how it should go? So the disadvantage is the mathematics that you pointed out. Another potential disadvantage is, should you ever sell that guitar with those sweet pickups, you might not get your money back. Even though clearly the pickups have been upgraded, but there's no guarantee that you get your money back. So you save the old pickups and you put them back in, if you ever sell the guitar. Pickups are interchangeable, right? In general, depending on the size of, humbuckers can be swapped with other humbuckers and single coils with other single coils and stuff like that. And I know there's exceptions, but you know what I'm saying? So no, I think it's a great idea, Scott. If you can do the work yourself, that saves you some money, right? Then you're not paying labor. Depending on how you buy the pickups, if they don't bring the guitar to life in a great way, you can return them, right? I mean, that's an option. You can save them for a future guitar or some other guitar. Is it possible that your cheap guitar will sound a lot better? Sure, it's possible. Is it possible it'll just sound a little bit better? Maybe. Is it fun? Yeah, it's fun for those of us who are going to hopefully hear back from you on what happened. So do it for us. No, but I get the math. So pickups make a huge difference for sure. But you won't know till you do it, right? So yeah, in general, I'm going to encourage you to do it, but I don't want to spend your money, So Charlie, you're asking a good question, and I'm gonna answer it as I'm getting ready for our play along song of the week. Charlie Bigo says, what accounts for the price differential in guitars that appear almost identical? Lots of stuff. Charlie, are you talking about the same brand of guitar or two different brands, but the guitars look alike? But no matter what, guitar pricing, yeah, it's all over the place, right? And I'll say it again, more than ever, there are so many good quality, playable, sweet guitars at every price point. Charlie, you're asking a good question. All the variables that go into a guitar, just because they look alike, and this includes, say, a Fender a Fender blah, blah, blah Stratocaster compared to a Fender blue, blue Stratocaster, right? American Standard Professional compared to the Standard American, I don't know, Professional American Standard 2 compared to, you know, the Standard Professional American Hot Rod. Like, wait a minute. What, you know, so, but different specs. So from a distance, you know, a couple of Fender Stratocasters. Well, maybe one's made in Mexico, one's made in the US. One has standard, perfectly good Fender pickups. The other has some hot shot, you know, more expensive Fender pickup. And they decide what the price is. Oh, this guitar is $400 pickups. Well, Fender chose that price. They're telling you it has $400 pickups or whatever. And acoustic guitars, right? Acoustic guitars, I mean, wood looks like wood from a distance, right? You can't tell, is it made of solid wood? Is it laminated wood? How quickly the guitar was made. You guys know I'm a big fan of the Know Your Gear YouTube podcast, Phil McKnight. And I like how he explains that some guitars are made fast and other guitars are made slow. They might look like from a distance, but one, you know, it was made as quickly as possible. And you know, another guitar, someone might have put hours and hours of labor and checking and fine tuning. And from a distance, they look alike. They might even have a lot of the same parts, but one was made super fast. And there's only so much time on that guitar, what Phil calls hand time, before it's got to go down to the next part of the assembly line. You know, my guitar from LSL Guitars, I love it very much. But I have every reason to believe there are multiple people involved in, oh, I know there was, because there was a small delay, I think, because the guy who does the painting was out of commission for a while. So it was delayed a little bit until he was back in action. So even this guitar, you know, which was, you know, made slowly, it was made by several different people, you know, but even at that level, pretty nice professional quality guitar. At a certain point, it's got to go to the next stage, right? So, yeah. So it's a good question, Charlie. So that's what's going on. Okay. So you guys, unsung hero. Okay. Last question, and then I'm going to get to the song of the week, because it's a great question. Unsung Hero says, could you stress me out a little further about my thumb placement? I only pay attention to it when muting the low E. Otherwise, I just drag it along the neck. What's the proper thumb placement and the importance of the thumb placement? I was just talking about this with a student this morning, so this is fresh in my mind. In general, it's not a bad idea to have your thumb pointing straight up towards the neck. In general, you know, that's sorry, pointing straight up towards the ceiling. You know, you could say that's basically perpendicular to the neck, right? In general, you know, no matter what, I want you to consider a few things. Your thumb should be mobile, flexible, ready to adjust to do whatever it's needed. Number two, if you're ever in any pain or discomfort that relates to wherever your thumb is, make a change. This stuff is not supposed to hurt. The skin on your fingertips, that's supposed to hurt a little bit, right? Nothing else is supposed to hurt. Okay, so number two, listen to your body, right? Number one was to keep that thumb ready to adjust. Number two, listen to your body. If it hurts, you're doing something wrong, and it's time to, I shouldn't say you're doing something wrong. It's just that it's time to adjust the thumb in some way. The third thing is, if what you're doing sounds good, then don't mess with your thumb. You know, it sounds good. If what you're doing sounds not good, like deadened strings or just not getting a good grip with your fretting fingers, that's a good time to consider adjusting your thumb. That could make a huge difference. So if you look closely, you will see people on YouTube, at the coffee shop, wherever you watch guitar players, their thumbs are all over the place during the same song, during the same 10 seconds in a song. And an example I would give is I'm thinking about, okay, say I'm playing a song that goes from G to F. On the G, look at my thumb is just hanging out up there, right? I'm not doing what I said a minute ago. My thumb is, behind the neck, pointing up towards the ceiling. I don't need to do that. My thumb is just in what feels like a pretty casual position up there. As soon as I go to the F chord, my thumb disappeared from view, didn't it? So that's what I mean about thumb. There's no one place the thumb has to be constantly, right? You bring your thumb wherever you want to. And if you keep your eyes open, you'll see plenty of people, watch their fretting hand, and their thumb is all over the place. If they're doing a variety of things. If I'm just playing, you'll see in the play along song in a minute, my thumb is not going to change much because the song has lots of chords I've done since I was 16. G, D, C, E minor. And I've played enough that my fingers are flexible enough that I don't have to adjust my thumb to get those straightforward chords, those basic chords. But if I wasn't getting a satisfactory sound with those chords, I would move my thumb. So don't do what I do, or don't feel you have to. Like, geez, if I was a good guitar player, I could have my thumb up there all the time. That's not what I'm saying. It's more that as your fretting hand shapes up, your thumb finds out when it's needed and when it's not needed, when it can relax or not relax. Bar chords, my thumb disappears from view, right? And definitely my thumb now is pointing up towards the ceiling right there. I'm thinking when I practice scales, my thumb is in that position pointing up towards the ceiling. Kind of disappearing from view. Okay, so those are a bunch of things to think about. Hope that helps. Okay, let's get into it. Our song of the night. Can't wait. From Lowell George. Who's Lowell George? You guys know who Lowell George is. And if you know who Lowell George is, you're going to be ready to play this song. I'm going to put this up here first. Willin by Little Feat. I believe this was the first song that Lowell George ever wrote. And not a bad way to start, right? Okay, I have a couple of pieces of paper here for Willin by Lowell George. So bear with me for a second. While I do this, you can see the chords that you need. G, D, actually, you can't see them yet. You can see that you need a C, and you need the ability to move that C chord up 2 frets. Okay? Like this. Hold on here. Here's my C. C up 2 frets, back to C, and the whole thing happens to resolve to G. A lot of the song, especially the way I'm going to show you, is really straightforward, you guys. That's why I picked it. G, D, E minor, C, like I said. This one specific thing is, I'm laughing at my little smiley face down there. That's what gives a song personality as a teacher, from my point of view. If someone came to me, both people have, and said, I want to learn Willin by Little Feat, this is the one talking point, because the rest of it is pretty straightforward, as you will see shortly. So everyone okay with this? When you take the C chord and slide it up 2 frets, the strings that were open on the C chord are still open. So that's why this chord has that exotic sounding name, D add 11. And it sounds kind of, it's a beautiful sound. Lowell George does not dwell on that chord, right? It's like C, D, C. I'm calling it D, even though it has a longer name, but. So the listener doesn't really have too much time to sit and analyze the effect those open strings have, Okay, now what you guys need is the chord changes. And what I'm going to do I'm going to put this up, although I have a better. You done with that? You're okay with that? Oh, by the way, this is not the only song. You know what other song uses this chord change more prominently? Man on the Moon by REM uses that C to that D quite a bit, like at the heart of the song. Now, I know that's a little faded looking. I have a better copy, but take a look at that for a second. I'm going to go grab the better copy if I don't have it right here. Okay. Willin by Little Feat. The intro and the verse. That's that top line. Pre-chorus, chorus, the solo section, which is just us strummers just keep strumming the same chords as we do the verse. Okay, so here's what you need to know, song bikers. Every time you see a chord name, you're going to do 2 boom chicks. You're going to hit the root note of the chord and then a light strum on the 3 or 4 skinny strings. That's 1 boom chick. You're going to do 2 boom chicks on the G, 2 boom chicks on the D, and so on. When are there exceptions to that? The exceptions. There's that C, D, C. See that right there? C, D, C. That's an exception. 1 strum on C, 1 strum on D, 1 strum on C. That thing I just showed you. Anytime you see stuff in brackets, it means 1 strum on that chord, 1 strum on that chord, 1 strum on that chord. Okay? So those are your 2 options. 2 boom chicks per chord name, or 1 strum on each chord. That means 1 strum on C and 1 strum on D, for example. Okay? Now this will make more sense momentarily. Oh, hopefully it makes sense now. But once we put it in the context of the song, I think you guys will dig it. Okay, I believe my other copy, which is even better looking than that one, I think it's still in the copier machine, which is fine because I know where that is. Because I want you guys to see the best possible version, I'm going to go grab that. While I'm gone, you guys can practice your boom chicks. When I advise you to hit the root note first, how are you guys at finding out what the root note is? On a D chord, where's the root note? The open D string. On the E minor chord, it's the open E string. You guys are good with your string names, right? Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye, Eddie. How about on the, whenever the A minor shows up, you only strum the A minor as a single strum. So we don't have to worry about the root note on the A minor. Okay, entertain yourselves, my friends. I'll be back. You count, start on 60 and count backwards. By the time you're done, I'll be right here. All right, look at that. Look at that. Now that is a little bit cleaner and clearer, right? Did anyone out there never heard of this song? I'm always surprised at people who don't know this song. That's a big, big famous song, man. But I get it. Not everybody can know every song. I get it. You never know who's going to know what. In the next 5 minutes, you will know this song too. All right, team. So. All right. What do we have here? The basic sound. Might play it a hair slower than that, but that's the vibe, okay? Boom, chick, boom, chick. Okay, so I'm going to take my copy. Now, remember, you guys, the goal here is to have some fun, to learn what you need to play the tune, and then to work on it without me, right? work on it on your own. Come back and revisit this video. Pull up the song on YouTube, Spotify, whatever your preferred platform is. Play along with it, right? Keep in mind that YouTube allows you to slow down a song. Okay, I'm going to play this a little bit slower than the original, I think. I'm going to try to. But YouTube allows you to slow down the video. It's a beautiful thing, right? Okay, so we're going to start in a minute. The intro and the verse, same chord changes. In fact, once you get past the intro, the verse happens twice, that little repeat sign. Intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Then you do the whole thing again. You go back to the verse, I should say. You do the whole thing a second time. Then comes the solo section, some sweet steel guitar playing, some nice piano playing too. The solo section. All you're doing during the solo section is the verse twice. You know? Oh, you know what? I lied. It's exactly as written. Intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, right into the solo section. And then the whole thing goes back for the second verse. And you work it out again. And it ends right over here. So intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, solo, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and you're done. Short and sweet. So I'm just about ready to go. Questions, comments? I think we're setting up for success here. How about if I play? There's a cool intro. I don't know if we have time to get to it today, but there's a cool melodic intro on the guitar. If we don't have time to get to it today, we can do it another time. How about if I play the verse, or I'll play the intro, which is the same as the verse. I'll play that one time, and then the vocals will come in. You know, I've been warped by the rain, driven by the snow. Yeah. All right. Can we get that a little bit better? Come on. There we go. You got to tell me if you can't see something clearly, okay? Just, you can yell at me. All right. I'm as good as I'll ever be. Okay. What could go wrong? I'll see you on the other side. Here comes the intro. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've been warped by the rain, driven by the snow. I'm drunk and dirty. Don't you know I'm still Willin. Out on the road, late at night, seen pretty Alice, every headlight, Alice, Dallas, Alice. And I've been from Tucumcari, the Hatchet to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made. Driven the back roads so it wouldn't get wet. And if you give me wet whites and wine, and you show me a sign, I'll be willing to keep moving. Solo section. Solo section again. Second verse. I've been kicked by the wind, right by the sleet. Have my head stove in, but I'm still on my feet, and I'm still Willin. Smuggled some smokes and folks from Mexico. They bother me every time I go to Mexico, and I'm still. And I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, to Hatshepsut to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made. Driven the back road so it wouldn't get weighed. And if you give me wheat, white sand wine, and you show me a sign, I'll be willing to keep moving. All right, how'd you do? If I had to predict what might gum someone up when they're doing this is when during the pre-chorus, it suddenly changes to one strum, one strum, one strum. Just so you know, that's right when it says driven every kind of rig that's ever. So the G, A minor, G, every kind of rig that's ever been made. So that's that section, right? This section hopefully didn't gum you up, but wheat, white sand wine, that's right there. And the word wine is right on that first G. So one strum on C, one strum on G, one strum on A minor, and the G right there lines up with the word wine, you know. Okay, so let's leave it at that. We only have a little time left in our show, but I hope we got 46 of you. You guys are hanging in there. Awesome. I hope there's a few of you out there who are like, oh, I always like that song, or I like it now. And you see that the skills you need are not negligible, but it's doable, right? No hard chords there. Great opportunity to work on that G with the middle ring and pinky, right? The alternative G. It's not a fast tune. Okay, so let's leave it at that for right now. There is a very cool intro. Tell you what. It's that sound. Which there's never enough time. I have it written down for you guys. Okay, bear with me. It's such a pretty part, and it ties in with something I want to talk about anyways. Okay, on paper, that's basically what the intro looks like. Now, this is for those of you who know the tune, who recognize that introduction. Okay. I feel like I'm in the cockpit of a plane. Everything I need is very close, but my space is limited. That's all right. Okay. Hey, Randy, thank you for your super bucks. I appreciate that, Randy. Thank you. I'm going to send that heart your way. So. Since we're doing this song, I'll show you that intro. This ties in with something else I want to show you more about, if not tonight, maybe on Friday. That thing that I teased at, guitar riffs you want to steal. This is a good example of the riff that we should all steal, although I have a song in mind beyond the song. Okay, please do yourself a favor. Before you even get into the weeds with this, please use your index and pinky. Just go easier on yourself. Some of you are already experimenting with a variety of fingers. Nah, just index and pinky. You can always go back later and substitute, but you know what? You're going to do just fine with the index and pinky. Let's not worry about the strumming for a second. Left hand, your fretting hand. Index, 10 on the A string. Pinky, 12 on the B string. Don't hunt too hard for 12. It's where the double dots are, you know? Okay. Again, let's not worry about the strumming for a second. I'm going to nickname this thing 10-12. Okay, 10-12. After 10-12 comes 9-10. Still index and pinky. Trust me, just index and pinky. Just keep them. You could even curl those other fingers out of the way. Index on 9, pinky on 10, the same strings. After 9-10 comes 7-8. After 7-8 comes 5-7. Now you're going to be glad you're using your pinky. That's a little bit of a stretch, 5-7. And after 5-7 comes 3-5. See how my index and pinky got the job done. They got it done, you know. There we go. I'm going to get to the picking in a second, but I want to get that sound in your head. Okay. Now with your picking hand, you got to be a little careful. Could you use your thumb and 2 bare fingers? Definitely. If any of you are hesitant about having good aim with your pick, you could thumb on the 5th string, index on the, according to this, the open 3rd string, middle on the 2nd string. See how the open 3rd string is continuing on there? Okay, but with practice, you can do it with a pick. Just have to be a little bit careful. Okay, what is this? Tenths, Tenths, tenths. You are playing tenths, my friend. Where's that name come from? That 12 is the 10th note of the G scale. That's a short answer. So that interval is called a 10th. That 10 is the note G. Got it. That 12 is a really high B. It's a lot higher than that 10. It's so far away that it goes beyond the typical do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, the typical 8 notes of a major scale. It goes on a few more notes. As if we were going up, you know, to the next octave, right? So that's why it's called the 10th note. You might say, wait, a major scale only has 8 notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And it does, but you can keep going higher, 8 more notes, right? Okay. So everything here, the short name for that is a 10th. So if I were, you know, hanging out with someone who knew music theory, I'd say, hey, you ever notice how that cool intro to Willin is based on 10ths? Isn't that cool? Oh, what would you call that open G string that keeps happening every time? Begins with D. We learned at the beginning of this live stream. That G string is, say it with me, de-droning. Yeah, look at that. Total coincidence. But yeah, there's an example of the G string is droning along no matter what else is happening. So just so you know, after that cute little first half of the intro, then it settles into that more of a boom chick. That's that thing down there. Okay. Now I'm simplifying a tiny bit. On the original song, there's a little more picking in there. So like, so while this does reflect what the left hand's doing, admittedly the right hand's doing a little bit of extra casual kind of strumming beyond what's reflected there. That's okay. You start with this, and as you get comfortable with this, you can throw in some extra stuff. Okay, my friends, now we are getting close to the end, and we only covered some of what I hope we'd cover tonight, but I'm okay with that if you're okay with that. Hey, Facebook and Instagram, that is exactly where I'll be reminding people like you that the next live stream is going to be this coming Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, not on Saturday. If you don't follow me on Facebook and Instagram, why not, man? That's how I make little announcements and reminders and stuff like this. So I believe you can find me, the description of this video and of every live stream, it talks about how you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. But if you just do a search for the term Songbike, all one word, Songbike, on Instagram or Facebook, you'll find my page. Like my page, then you won't have to remember stuff because I'll be reminding you, you know. All right. So, you guys are talking about 6 Days on the Road. What a great song, Charlie Beagle. Love that song, 6 Days on the Road. A lot of people have covered that song. Bob Dylan's been playing it recently in concert, not for the first time, but the last handful of shows on the tour Bob Dylan has been doing. He's been playing 6 Days on the Road, and I'm going to make it home tonight. DJ Batman asked an interesting question. DJ Batman says, is it true that soloing is just manipulation and embellishing chords? It can be. It can be. There's so many approaches to soloing, improvising, composing. There's so many approaches. Without a doubt, it's super helpful to know the chords that are happening, to what the rest of the band is doing, and to use Willin as an example right there. To play a solo on top of these chord changes, it really helps us if we know the order and what chords they are, what order, in a perfect world, as you're soloing, whatever your approach to soloing is, in a perfect world, there's a little voice in your head that's reminding you, oh yeah, the C chord's coming up, there, here it is, yep, and now the next chord's coming up, and you're keeping track of that even while you're making beautiful music. I mean, that's a big goal. So DJ Batman, someone would say what you said is not their perspective. There's lots of perspectives. They say, oh, my perspective is what scale is the appropriate scale, and I'm just going to improvise with that scale during the song. A blues song in the key of E, they take an E blues scale, and that's how they solo. And they're not thinking about chords directly. They're aware the chords are happening, but they're playing notes that they're going to play because they like how those notes sound in general during the chord changes. So someone else would describe it differently. I like your description. It's one healthy way to do it. You can even play a solo based on chords. Let's say, you and I are in the same room and you're playing Willin, and it's time for that solo to happen. Remember, the solo is based on those chord changes, right? It's totally possible that I might do a little improvising, but I'm going to do it with those chords. I might play those chords up the neck to make things a little bit interesting. So bear with me for a second. I'm getting in the groove. G, D. So I'm going to go G, G. Okay, so I might play a solo along these lines. I'm going to verbalize it as I do it. Again, if you could watch my left hand, or you could watch up here. Hopefully, it'll all be the same thing. 2, 3, 4. G, D, E minor, C, G. Okay, so I was definitely playing chords. None of this wheedly stuff, but I was playing them up the neck, makes them nice and audible. I was doing a little arpeggiating. So DJ Batman, in this case, I was taking your approach, what you said, and frankly, I wasn't even embellishing the chords. I mean, I wasn't really adding too much. I think on the D on this version of G, I put in a little pinky, but I think most everything else, my left hand grabbed the chord and just stayed there, and then my right hand danced around a little bit. Perfectly valid way of playing a solo, and you can't go wrong because every note you play literally reflects the chord the band is playing, or if you and I are playing together, it reflects the chord that you're strumming. It's a little conservative, but it sounds so appropriate and it fits so nicely. And not every solo has to be a showstopper, right? It's just not appropriate a lot of the time, in my humble opinion, you know? So I hope that answers your question. You've identified one good approach, but it's one of many, you know? Okay, the last thing I'm going to say, if I read more into your question, a soloist is playing notes on top of whatever the chords are the band is playing, right? So in that sense, the soloist is like embellishing on top of the chord by playing chord tones like I was doing, but then also playing non-chord tones to keep things interesting, not be so conservative all the time, you know? So in the biggest sense, you could say what you said is totally right. The chords exist, the song has been written, and the soloist is reacting to that and choosing what to play directly based on the chords. And at any given moment, the soloist is playing a certain thing that is a reaction to what's carved in stone. The chord changes are carved in stone, right? That's how the song goes. The soloists can do whatever they want, including sound bad on purpose. You can play a G sharp note during a G chord. It's going to sound bad, right? But maybe there's a method to their madness. I don't know that particular method, the example I gave, but there's something to be said about playing something that's not a chord tone. There's lots of reasons to do that, including it might lead very nicely to a chord tone, you know? So my advice to anybody is never rule anything out. And I would go as far as saying I would never tell someone to never play a G sharp during a G chord. I wouldn't, it wouldn't be my first recommendation, but you know what, there's ways things can be resolved. Music is full of tension and resolution, right? There's ways to resolve, quote, wrong notes, you know? Getting paid versus getting kicked out of the band, you know, getting paid versus, you know, not being asked to perform at that bar again. You know, you gotta factor in a bunch of things. Charlie Parker, I mean, I'm joking, but Charlie Parker, the jazz saxophonist, right? He played by his own rules and was rejected. I mean, it's tragic because he was rejected until he was revered. But at first, Charlie Parker was playing what worked for his ear. And culturally, it took the rest of us a while to catch up with what he was doing. You know, if you're the first person to do something, that's rough, man. You know, and now he's Charlie Parker. But at the time, it was like, why are you playing those wrong notes? And they weren't wrong to him. You know, he could hear that. He could, in his mind, he could hear it. And culture caught up to him eventually. You know, that's a tough way to go. Okay, DJ Batman, that was a great question, and I want to take a swing at it. You know, a swing at it. You guys like those that what I did there? Yeah, not rocket science, you guys. It helps have a context, right? You say, okay, I'm gonna play up the neck versions of those chords. I was only doing a few different combinations. The G chord, well, let's end on this because it's a good note to end on. If I didn't get to one of your questions, please do ask it again at a future live stream, okay? Again, I'm using this as my template, right? G, D, E minor, C. I'm that top line. Okay. For the G, I took a D chord and moved it up. So I was at the 7th, 8th, and 7th frets. That is a G chord. Rolling on there for 2 beats, right? 1, 2, and then it's already time to change. There's not much time. Okay. For the D, I went to my preferred D, 5, 7, 7. By the way, everything I'm about to play is on the 3 treble strings. 5, 7, 7. There's my D chord. Again, only for 2 beats. 1, 2, you know. The next chord is E minor. I did it the way you'd play a D minor, but up 2 frets. The D minor formation, 3 on the first string, 5 on the second string, 4 on the third string. And again, this is the kind of thing that I will put in the description of this video when I timestamp it tomorrow. That is an E minor chord. So right now I'm at that part of the song. Next comes a C. Guess what? My index can stay right there. 3 on the first string, 5 and 5. That's a C chord. By the way, it's simply 2 frets backwards from the D chord I did back there. The D chord was 5, 7, 7. The C is 3, 5, 5. G chord, I went back to my G chord in the D formation, 7, 8, 7. Now I knew this thing was coming up. I knew you guys, the rhythm guitar player, was going to go C, up 2 frets for that fancy D, back to C, and then resolve for that G, right? I knew you guys were going to do that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a quick little C, D, C. I think one time I did this C, up 2 frets to D, and then back to my G. And I think another time I did this C, 8, 8, 9. I made a little bar with my index finger, the 2 8s. There's my 9. That's my C chord. C up 2 frets for the D, back to the C again. And then here's my G. And personally, I love doing this stuff. It's kind of like engineering. I don't know. It's like building little things that go with what the song is telling me to do, you know. But instead of playing the chords down there, I'm playing them up the neck, like literally up the neck chords. Sounds so pretty, right? I mean, isn't that beautiful? It's not hard. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. It helps to always be looking ahead. So while I'm strumming that G, whatever I was doing on that G as a lead guitar player, I was already thinking about that thing right there. That's a whole nother topic of conversation. Always being one step ahead. It's weird. It's weird. I have a theory, we'll get into this another time, that because of the need to always be thinking ahead as a musician, so you're prepared, right? In a weird sort of way, you don't get to enjoy the experience the same way a listener enjoys it. How can you enjoy what you're doing at the moment if you're already thinking about the next thing? I mean, of course it's enjoyable, but it's kind of weird, right? It's like you're at work and you're glad everyone's having a good time, but you're at work, you know, and literally you can't be enjoying the present moment that much because you have to be thinking about it. Or here's another way to put it: how much can you enjoy the present moment? We're talking about a millisecond. How much can you enjoy it, you know, without losing track of where you are in the song? You got to be ready for whatever's coming up next. I don't know. It's a little something that, this is what I think about driving to work, my friends. All right, you guys. So did we cover some ground today? Yeah, we covered some ground. Did you have a good time? I did. I hope you did. Did we get to everything? Yeah, sure we did. We did enough, you know. Okay, things we didn't get to, and I'll make this quick. We didn't get to the first rock guitar book. We didn't get to the last part of Stairway to Heaven or the Mary Jane's Last Dance exercise. We didn't get to some of the coolest musicians on YouTube, although I still put their links in in this video because I mean, I want to give them some credit. One of the links, I'll do this right away, right when our live stream ends. Derek Truck's favorite guitar player. Okay, I don't know if it's his #1 favorite of all time, but it's a guitar player who Derek Trucks speaks so highly of. And so I went to check him out. So I'm going to turn you guys on to him. He goes by the name D. Gary, D''Gary from Madagascar. So I'm going to put a very cool link from D. Gary in the description of this video. I'll do that very soon. Louis Michaud from New Orleans. What a cool guy. His album came out last year, but I think he's so awesome. Beautiful Cajun stuff. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He does not only play the guitar. You'll see him playing fiddle and other instruments too. So cool. So I'm going to put a link to a cool live video of his in the description of today's video. Justin Adams. I'm a big fan of Justin Adams. I feel like I've brought his name up before. He has a new album out. The new single was just released. I'm going to put a link to the video of Justin Adams' new song, which I dig. It's very, very cool. He makes me want to go get a Les Paul. And I'm not even a Les Paul guy, but and how about one more? I want to talk about all these guys more in depth, but Andy Basford, reggae guitar player from Hartford, Connecticut. Not a sentence you're going to hear very often. I met Andy Basford a million years ago. I managed to hang out a little bit with Toots and the Maytals, the reggae band Toots and the Maytals, and Andy Basford was Toots and the Maytals guitar player, and a guy from Connecticut. I said, "Oh, I have family." I wasn't living in Connecticut at the time, but we bonded over our Connecticut roots, and it's always been in the back of my mind. Oh, that cool guy Andy from the band. Well, Andy Basford. I don't think I ever got his last name, or if I did, I forgot it. So he came to my attention recently because of a new project he's working on. Anyways, I'm going to put a link to Andy Basford in today's in the description. So I'll be doing that in the next 5 minutes. Okay, you guys. So before I say goodbye, I would hope to see all of you this Friday. Same everything, just a different time. This coming Friday, not Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern. I want to, what else I want to say? I will timestamp this whole thing tomorrow morning, okay? So if you're looking for something very specific, you're welcome to hunt around for it. Come back to the video and hunt around for it. But it'll be a lot easier once I timestamp it. So I'll do that tomorrow morning. I guess that about does it. The gentleman that I just mentioned, though, I will put links to their stuff in the description of this video right now. All right, you guys. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Beginner Guitar Lessons for being here. Thanks to Music Fan for being our other moderator. Hi to my mom. My mom doesn't miss an episode. So hi, Mom. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on Friday. We'll do this all again. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram to stay in the loop about any sort of updates and all sorts of stuff. And that'll do it. Thanks again to those of you who made a super chat donation. Just to wrap up, and then I will say goodnight. Our poll results. Come on now. Okay, can you finger pick the guitar? 44% said no. I just use a pick. 17% said yeah, but I make up my own way of doing it. 24% says yes, I do it. I just started doing it, but I'm doing it the right way. And 15% said yes, I do it the right way. Very interesting. Love it. All right, you guys. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Have a great week. Enjoy your Sunday. My weekend begins now. And I'll see you soon. Okay, bye, everybody.